My book is a memoir, but it's a memoir of a very specific period in my life. It runs from, roughly 1930, when I was born, until maybe to early 1950. But even more than my life, I think it's a story about the times. It's a story about women and the story about the poor. It begins really about 1930. In 1930, my parents had been married for 2 years. And they had a 1-year-old child, that was my brother, and a bun in the oven, that was me. My father lost his job in 1930, and who could know that there wouldn't be any more work for 10 years. It was a very hard time for everybody. And my parents became committed communists. A lot of people did then. And so this is a story about those early days, about political involvement and what the times were like, how the politics of the times played out in family situations. I had no idea that I was writing a memoir, not at all. I was writing little stories that children tell about themselves. Like the first time that I got a cut on my body and my body bled, and I thought, oh, I'm a little kid, you know, and I cried and talked about what that was like. That was during the Depression, and that's one of the stories in here of being a small child and being given charity for Christmas. A little doll carriage for me and a little truck for my brother. And the doll carriage was not a new one. It had been remade and repainted, and there was a nail sticking out from it that scratched me. And that became one of the first stories I ever wrote, was what that was like, of being desperately poor. My father was away, it was just my mother taking care of us. And so I went from there. The book grew from there, from one little story and then another little story and then another little story, and it just began to expand. My mother had her way with secrets. She would act as if they didn't exist. She gave us acting lessons. "Daddy's coming home," she would say cheerfully, smiling brightly, looking at her 2 children, blinking. "Daddy's coming home. Let's wave from the window so he'll see us. He'll see how happy we are that he's coming home." And we children arranged our faces, put on masks of cheerful welcome, like costumes we had taken from the drawer, a sweater that didn't quite fit, handed down from a cousin. When I was very young, life was difficult. My father was a difficult man. The times were difficult. And finally, when I was about 14 years old, my mother said to me, "I'm leaving. Do you want to come?" And of course, I said yes. I wanted to get out of there. Get out of there. Please, can I get out of here? So she left my father with nothing but a suitcase and me. And we went from Vancouver to Toronto, lived in Toronto for a year, maybe 2 years, I can't remember, and then went down to New York. She was a writer and she was ambitious. So that's the other thing that Little Comrades talks about a little bit, the New York scene. So Little Comrades covers also that period of my life, including some of the difficult political times in the United States. This was just when McCarthy era was beginning and the communists were scurrying into hiding. And my mother managed to leave the United States just one jump ahead of the FBI. I was about 2 years old when Tim Buck first came to visit us, so I don't remember this, but I was told the story. He was the leader of the Communist Party of Canada, an important man, small and energetic, like my grandfather. My mother was typing reports in the kitchen late into the night and early morning. He asked her, "Why aren't you in the party?" And Lawrence, my father, said she wasn't ready, but he was teaching her. "She doesn't need your permission, comrade," Tim said. "If she's politicized enough to stay up all night typing for the party, she's ready to be a member." My mother's first book was published when she was 80 years old. And she said to me, "Once you pass 80, they'll applaud you just for standing up." And I got a little bit of that when Little Comrades came out. I'm too polite to call it ageism, but it was close to that. It's, there she is, little old lady. She walks, she talks, she breathes, she writes. Look at her. But the publicity was important for me and for my publisher, for my darling publisher, my wonderful publisher. Porcupine's Quill, say it now. Wonderful publisher. And the publicity was important. So I didn't care how I got it, or how they stated it. And it's true, I certainly am little, and I certainly am old, and I'm almost a lady, most times anyway. So I'm a little old lady. The book I got some publicity, and then the book got some publicity, and that was good, so that's good. I think it's really a story about the lives of women and the lives of people who are poor, and these are lives that we don't often encounter. And this was that particular historical time. Women's lives have changed enormously, wonderfully, wonderfully. Not far enough, but women's lives have changed. And I'm hoping, one of the things I hope is that this book will give people a way in to seeing what the lives of their mothers were, the lives of their grandmothers. It's just trying to get through life. To get through life and try to understand other people and the lives that they may have had. People's lives are very complicated. They're not simple.